Today we look at the richest players in the history of the NBA. This includes their career earnings, endorsements, and any other way they've made money after their careers. Now keep in mind, in 2009 a report came out saying that within 5 years of retirement, 60% of all NBA players go broke and run out of money. So that tells us two things for this video. Just how impressive all these feats actually are that we're about to see, and it shows us that some of today's current players are learning from the mistakes of the past and trying to set themselves up for the future. But okay, so based on current numbers I could find out there, here's the richest NBA players of all time. First up, we have a three-way tie, impressively with some of our most recent and even current day players, with also a huge thanks to how massive contracts are today. But oh, by the way, I should mention, we're not including any players based on their current contracts and money that they will have. This is only based on money that they currently have earned. So no Giannis with his $228 million deal, or Lillard with his $196 million contract. But back to the three-way tie, it goes to Dwayne Wade, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. Starting first with D Wade, whose net worth is $170 million. He made $196 million from his NBA contracts throughout his 16-year career, and used a lot of that money to buy a partial ownership stake in the Utah Jazz. And he just retired too not too long ago, so the fact that he already invested that much into being a team owner is a great look for him. But that still puts him in a very different situation than Kevin Durant, who's already invested in over 80 companies and made some huge moves with Coinbase and Postmates. But at the same time, while he may be one of the biggest investing players in the entire NBA, he's also one of the highest paid in contracts and endorsements. So he may be towards the bottom of this list currently, but by the time it's all said and done, we might even be able to expect him in the top 3, because currently right now, last year in 2021, overall he made $75 million. While Stephen Curry has the same net worth at $170 million, he's done it through timing and great deals on the court. And he will without a doubt be moving up on this list soon, because next year he'll be making $49 million just from his Warriors contract alone, and $59 million in the 2026 NBA season. He's already one of the highest paid athletes in the world, but it just gets more and more out of hand from here on out. And that's also thanks to all of his off-court endorsements that currently earn him about $40 million a year. So in a few more seasons, Steph Curry will be making $100 million a year. But that's just what happens when you're one of the faces of the NBA. For our next spot, it goes to former NBA great Kevin Garnett, and he takes his spot thanks to being the number 2 highest paid NBA player of all time just based off of NBA contracts, which came in at a huge $343 million. He was the number 1 overall earner for a while, but LeBron passed him recently, who we'll get to later on. But that's what happens when you come into the league straight out of high school, then have a 20-year career. Next up, we have another two-way tie, and this one's between Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson. First, with Hakeem, well, back in the 80s and 90s when he played, players didn't get paid nearly as much as they do now. As a matter of fact, Hakeem made $90 million in NBA contracts throughout his career, but has since doubled his net worth to $200 million. And he's done that through real estate, where he's made over $100 million, which is more than he made in his time being an NBA player. People have said that he was somehow a master at picking what houses to buy and sell from the start, and they didn't know how he did it. And I didn't know this, but David Robinson basically did the same exact thing as Hakeem. He nearly doubled his net worth by buying real estate. So shout out to both of them for staying busy and effective even after retiring. Then seeing that a guy like Grant Hill has a $250 million net worth is kind of surprising. He made about $140 million throughout his career, but the rest of his money has come from him staying busy off the court. He's been a broadcaster and a commentator for years, and did a lot of sponsorships soon after retiring. But most of his post-retirement money has come from him being a co-owner for the Atlanta Hawks. You gotta have a lot of money to buy into a team, but once you do, they only shoot up in value, so it's an easy way for these former players to skyrocket their net worth. And with how much guys are making these days, I wouldn't be surprised if it's what we start seeing more and more former players buying into. Now, former NBA bench player Vinnie Johnson has one of the most impressive net worths of the video. Chances are you don't know much about Vinnie. He only made $5 million in his NBA career, but he took that $5 million and turned it into $400 million. And he did it by making an automobile supply company that supplies car parts to some of the biggest companies like GM and Ford. And his company is one of the largest minority-owned businesses in the world, and does over $2 billion in revenue every single year. So he's one guy I'm sure you definitely didn't expect to see on this list. Everyone is expecting to see Shaq though, whose net worth is $425 million. And he's had sponsorships with nearly every large company you can think of on the planet. Taco Bell, Radio Shack, Icy Hot, Vitamin Water, Krispy Kreme, Papa John's, Kraft Foods, Pepsi, Comcast, Carnival Cruises, Reebok, Oreos, 24-Hour Fitness. He's had it all, which is thanks to his playful personality and the fact that he's one of the most recognizable faces in the world. And on top of that, he owns businesses in nearly every single category. He's been in movies, TV shows, owns real estate, owns 17 Auntie Anne's, and 155 Five Guys restaurants. But for him, it just hurts to think that he could have had so much more money, because in 1998 he was given the opportunity to invest in Starbucks when it was just starting up. But he turned it down because he didn't believe in it. So Magic Johnson made the deal instead and made millions. Well, of course, the richest player currently still playing in the NBA today is LeBron James, whose net worth currently sits at $450 million. Overall, he's made over $700 million in his career, but after taxes and expenses, it was brought down to $450. But still, he's one of the top 5 highest paid athletes in the world, making $100 million a year from everything combined. And that's just what happens from being the best player in the NBA for almost a 20 20-year span. LeBron is also currently the all-time career moneymaker from his NBA contracts, having made over $390 million and counting. He's also had a few pretty big investments like Blaze Pizza throughout the years, but most of his earnings have come from his on-court related activities. I got no doubt though that when his career is over and he can start getting involved in other things off the court, he could very well become a billionaire. Then for our next spot, we have another three-way tie with Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, and Junior Bridgman. And we'll start with Bridgman first because some of you may be confused on who that is. And he was another solid guy off the bench, but never made more than $350,000 in one season. Well, now he's turned that into a $600 million net worth, which is the most amazing story out there of any former NBA player and maybe any former professional athlete turning their opportunity into a huge net worth. As a matter of fact, in 2016, he was named the fourth wealthiest retired athlete in the world behind Michael Jordan, David Beckman, and Arnold Palmer. And he did it by learning how to franchise restaurants, which he was so good at he franchised over 100 Wendy's and Chili's locations, which he eventually sold them all years later. Kobe Bryant gained his $600 million net worth because he was dominating the business side of things after retirement. He would stay up till 3 and 4 a.m. studying and calling successful businessmen about different ventures, and it clearly paid off. He was involved in a lot of things, but what earned him by far the most money was his body armor investment. In 2014, he bought 10% of the company for $6 million, while Coca-Cola bought them out recently, and that turned his $6 million investment into $400 million, making him far more money in 6 years than he ever made in his entire 20-year playing career. And that 6-year investment brought him in as much money as Shaq's entire net worth. While on the other hand, Magic Johnson's NBA career was relatively short compared to most other stars, and it's really a credit to him how well he's done off the court. He made $40 million in salary while in the league. And let's not forget how weird his Lakers contract was. At the time, it was phenomenal. He signed on for a 25-year, $25 million deal, which I don't know how that was legal to do, but at the time, it was the largest contract in sports history and made him one of the only players in the league to make $1 million in a season. But even more impressively, it was a 25-year commitment to a 21-year-old player that they wanted to have around until he was 46 to be a coach, a general manager, or run the team one day. And that's huge. He would eventually sign new contracts to make up for him not being the highest paid in the league, but the fact that he later turned his net worth into 15 times what he made in the NBA is wild, because now his net worth is $600 million, and he's achieved that by being an iconic public figure, making a ton of successful investments, including becoming part owner of the LA Dodgers and the Los Angeles Sparks. Then as for the richest NBA player to ever live, we all know it was Michael Jordan, with a net worth of $2.2 billion, making him the highest paid former athlete of all time. And that's thanks to a few things: being the single most recognizable athlete there is, his Jordan brand, which has revolutionized the shoe game, and the fact that he bought 97% of the Charlotte Hornets back in 2010 for $200 million. And today the team's worth $1.9 billion. And with these billions, MJ has it all: his own personal yacht with a built-in basketball court, a private jet, and multiple mansions. So what do you think about how all these guys spent their money? Comment down below and let me know, and I'm out.